You're listening to the Baumbastic Podcast with Andrew Ellis on Inside Arkansas.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Baumbastic Podcast, presented by Inside Arkansas and hosted by Andrew Ellis. It is an April 15th. I'm coming to you following Arkansas's 13-3 victory in a midweek clash against the UAPB Golden Lions. That's right. Yeah, Golden Lions. They've got the cool logo that has the mane, the UAPB. Glad I didn't mess that up. It was a productive midweek victory for the Arkansas Razorbacks. They celebrated Jackie Robinson Day as the MLB. Everyone's wearing 42. I don't know if you know about that or if you've noticed. Arkansas does a little bit of their own. Honestly, I didn't know if there was going to be like a package or if there was going to be anything. They put up a couple Jackie Robinson fun facts at the yard, but always nice to honor his legacy and his life. And breaking the color barrier in baseball. Of course, we're always going to celebrate 42. April 15th, always going to be special for that. But also, arguably more importantly, it was $2 hot dog night at the ballpark. I had a great time enjoying this promotion. Surprised there weren't honestly there wasn't any craziness about it. We were recording some basketball videos earlier. Of course, Malik Ewan decided to commit at about 4:55. So we were doing that video, and I'm sitting there looking at the clock, and I'm like, man, I got to get bombed. Game starts at 6. Really want to get seated so I can get some hot dogs. Thought there was going to be like a bigger crowd tonight. And honestly, wish there would have been. Not shaming fans for not going to this game against UAPB on a Tuesday night. But the weather was great, at least for the first 4 or 5 innings. It was just a fun night at the yard, and so it was a productive midweek victory. Arkansas scores 10 runs in the first 3 innings. Tate McGuire on the bump. Colin Fisher came in behind him. Arkansas's bullpen in this game didn't allow any runs. Everyone came in and did their job, so really good stuff from that standpoint. We're going to break down the game a little bit, talk about what happened, talk about who stood out, any big takeaways if there are any. Before we do that, I do want to remind you guys, today's show is brought to you by Basis Health. Basis Health is changing the way healthcare is delivered by providing mobile medical visits at the comfort of your home. A doctor will come to your home for urgent care, primary care, IV hydration, and more. Basis Health, they are here for you when and where you need them most. You can learn more at basishealth.org today. We really appreciate them for all they do with us. Shout out to our guy, Dre, always taking care of us, always supporting us. I know he's happy about these Arkansas basketball portal commits, I am sure. Tonight's game, like I said, Arkansas scores 10 runs in the first 3 innings. So, and if you remember, I guess it was 2021, Arkansas played a game against Pine Bluff where I believe the final score was 29-4, and they called it after 5 innings. They didn't even bother getting to the 7th inning to do the whole run rule thing. They just were like, hey, let's just call the dogs. Here's the white flag. Early on, you kind of got those vibes. Arkansas finishes this game with 4 home runs. I believe it was 4. I hope I'm getting that right. It actually might have been more. 4. You had Cam Kogel. Let me pull up these numbers real quick just so I can look at it. Yeah, 4 home runs tonight. It was Cam Kogel who hit the 4th one. Arkansas had 3 earlier in the game. Both Aloy brothers hit a home run. You also had Zane Becker gets a start behind the plate, hits his first career home run. Honestly, it's kind of surprising considering how many home runs Zane Becker hit all offseason, and just how much pop he's shown. I think he had 2 doubles opening weekend. Like, dude can certainly swing it, and of course, he's not playing every day. But I was kind of surprised. Like I thought by this point he would have had his first career home run, but good to see him get on the board. I assure you that will not be his final collegiate home run. And we'll see how many he ends up hitting for the Arkansas Razorbacks, man. I think that's a guy that could really push. Like, don't be surprised this time next year. Of course, Ryder Helfrich's going to still be on campus, so could be tough, but he can swing the bat, has a lot of pull power. Don't be surprised if this time next year he's really in that mix for an everyday role. I put up the stats momentarily. Let's just go ahead and run through them real quick now. Charles Davalon does what he always does and gets on base at least once, reaches with a base hit. I believe that was in like the 3rd, 4th inning, somewhere around there. Big night at the plate for Vahiva Aloy, who had the home run early, also had a couple base hits. One that was hit sharply to right field. His brother wound up driving him in. Also just missed another home run. It was hit one to left field. That was pretty hard. The home run that Vahiva Aloy hit, by the way, was opposite field. Really nice swing. Didn't even really square it up. It just tells you how talented that kid is. Also stole a base, so really good to see there. Logan Maxwell had a couple well-struck singles, scored 3 runs, also worked a walk. Kahio Aloy, big-time night at the office for him, 4 for 5, has the home run. The final hit he had, I can't remember what the miles per hour was. They said it was like 57 miles per hour, just kind of a little check swing up the middle, ends up beating it out, and he's not the most fleet of foot, so it's interesting to see him get an infield single there, but drives in 4 runs, scores 3 more. Kahio Aloy just continues to swing the bat really well and be a threat at the plate. I believe that's now 54 runs driven in for Kahio Aloy this year. Big time stuff. Also, by the way, played some right field. Did commit an error on a ball that was hit down the line. It was a double and kind of got down there in the corner there, and he's playing right field, trying to play it off the wall. Ends up getting away from him, so they slapped an error on him. I believe that is the first of his career. Cam Kozel had a couple base hits, or had one base hit, and then had the home run, the 2-run home run in the 8th inning, which, by the way, I guess it took me so long to mention this. Arkansas did run rule this game. They did it in the bottom of the 8th with 2 outs, so it's like, about as close to not being a run rule as you could get. And like I said, early, you kind of thought this was going to be like a serious blowout. They went through a little bit of a mini drought. I don't know if it was just the weather getting a little bit colder. Maybe everyone got a little too big because of the home runs early. You had the big innings. You kind of took your foot off the gas. But good to see Arkansas go ahead and, smell blood in the water. Go ahead and get it done so the fans can get home, beat the traffic and all that. Really good to see. Brent Iredale, the only Razorback that appeared in this game without a hit, drops his batting average below 300. So, something to monitor. I saw some people trying to give Daniel Shee credit for calling Brent Iredale's demise. We will not be celebrating that on this pod. And also, I really am not going to worry about him going over 4 in a midweek game. But every single Razorback in the lineup did reach base because he did also draw a walk in the first inning. Carson Bowles had an RBI single in that first inning as well. Really good to see him continue to be a threat at the plate. Kendall Diggs comes off the bench, and boy, it was so funny. Brett Dolan and Troy Eklund were calling the game, and they always do a great job. We're talking about Kendall when he was up there. You would have thought that they were like reading his eulogy, man. They were like, oh, poor Kendall. Here he is up at the plate. Oh, it's been years since his last hit. It was sad, but it was also, telling. I mean, this year is obviously not gone the way Kendall Diggs has hoped, but good to see him come off the bench and get a base hit there. Maybe that'll get him going a little bit. Could see him on the weekend. I mean, it's, he got to start this past weekend. We know this guy's capable. Would love to see him really get things going and be a factor for Arkansas down the stretch. Reese Robinette, man, how about Big Country? Goes 3 for 5 in this game, 3 doubles. I believe all 3 of them went to the opposite way. He had his first double was in the gap in left center. Then he had one that was just inside the foul line down there in the left field line. And I want to say his third double also went in that left center gap. Reese Robinette, man, I've talked about him a lot on this show. Just in general, like he's a guy that's been at Arkansas for 3 years. You obviously want to see someone do well when they've stuck around him, and he could have left at any point. Who would have thought that he would be the one that stuck around? He came in the same recruiting class as Mason Neville and Jason Jones. Who would have thought Big Country would end up being the one that stuck around at Arkansas longer? Of course, redshirted last year. Obviously this Arkansas team has so many options. It's really hard to get in that lineup every day. But make no mistake about it, Reese Robinette can hit. Like, that dude can absolutely swing the bat. I know it's UAPB. Not saying we should throw him a parade for getting 3 hits tonight, but good to see him show that, man. Like, he really is a good, well-rounded baseball player. At most schools would, at the very least, be pushing, but would really have a good chance to be in the everyday lineup. Over the course of his career at Arkansas, I've seen him in these scrimmages hit just about any type of pitcher Arkansas has. And as you guys know, there's been some pretty damn good ones come through Fayetteville. Spoke about Zane Becker earlier, by the way. He was in the 9 spot, getting some experience behind the plate. Good to see Ryder Helfrich finally get a day off. And sometimes they give Ryder Helfrich a day off, and then they bring him in like the 6th inning, and sometimes they'll start him and then pull him once the game gets into being a blowout. Good to see Ryder Helfrich get an actual day off. Guy's been playing some awesome baseball. Of course, you need him available on the weekends. You got to shorten. You start your series in 2 games, so good to see him get some rest. Although he was out there, between innings while Zane Becker's getting his pads on and everything. I saw Ryder Helfrich out there warming up the pitcher, still being a part of the team, still itching to get on that field. But I saw him; he was not wearing spikes, which made me feel good. I was like, you know what? Good for Ryder Helfrich. Finally gets him a real day off. Now we'll see if Vahiva Aloy ever takes a day off. Dude really does not like doing that. Let's talk about the pitchers for a second. So Tate McGuire, it's very interesting with these midweeks starting roles because you never really, it's always a different type of situation. Sometimes you have it where it's like Casey Murphy back in the day when he was a freshman was pitching or I guess when it was his sophomore year where he was like the midweek starter. Clearly a guy that you could see being in a starting rotation. You just wanted to get him that experience. And he, of course, used that experience in 2017 to propel him into being a weekend starter in 2018. And, of course, we've seen Patrick Wicklander, Who's another example of this? I guess they never threw Hagen Smith or Jackson Wiggins in that type of role, but we've seen Arkansas use this midweek spot to kind of groom a guy for weekend starting roles. I don't know if that's what's happening here necessarily with Tate McGuire. Like, I don't know if they're viewing him as a guy that's going to next year join the weekend rotation. Of course, Arkansas is going to have no shortage of options to do that. I think it's just one of those, when you have a guy go down, he's pitching the big leagues, and he's coming back from injury or whatever. He's making his AA, AAA starts, and you're like, the results are what they are. We just want him out there throwing pitches, meeting his pitch count, keeping his arm fresh, working his way back from injury. I almost get that kind of feel. That's almost what they're doing here with Tate McGuire, it seems, because, of course, he's kind of fallen out of that circle of trust on the weekends. And Arkansas's got a lot of good right-handed pitchers that have been throwing the ball really well. So there's not really work for him there, but they're just kind of keeping him ready, keeping him engaged, throwing him about 3-4 innings each weekend or each midweek. And he's kind of stuck in that territory where he's throwing the ball okay. He gave up 3 runs. I believe it was 3 runs on 4 hits. None of them were really crushed. It really wasn't like he was getting raked around the yard, but it's kind of been that way for all of his starts in these midweek settings. Aside from the first one in Dickie Stevens, when I thought he was pretty good, he's just kind of out there throwing, and it's fine. It's not going to be like a performance that gets him more work on the weekend, but it's just nice to kind of have that arm fresh. And the same could kind of be said for Colin Fisher, who they really haven't been able to find midweek or weekend work for. Cole Gibler's kind of risen and taken some of those Parker Coyle innings. And of course, you've got all the right-handed arms, like I mentioned, like the Aiden Jimenez's of the world, Christian Fouch's of the world, Carson Wiggins of the world, even Ben Bibby's of the world, who threw 3 1/3 or whatever the other day. So there's really just hasn't been a ton of work for Colin Fisher. And he's kind of in that territory where he's kind of overqualified for midweeks, but not quite ready to really help Arkansas on the weekends. We'll see if that changes here in the next couple of weeks. I certainly think Colin Fisher's an arm worth investing in. Thought he threw the ball pretty well today. He's had a couple outings where I thought he threw it well, and it didn't necessarily show up in the stat sheet. Like he gave up a run or two, but I thought he kind of threw well. Today, I thought he was just kind of okay, but he doesn't give up a run. Ends up getting a huge double play ball, has 1 strikeout, I believe, and ends up giving Arkansas 2 innings there. Like I said, the bullpen does not give up a run. You finished with 5 innings. Colin Fisher was the only one that gave up a hit. You have 5 strikeouts among those guys. He's also the only one who issued a walk. Will McIntyre, we had not seen him in a while. I was a little surprised at just, not stunned at his lack of usage necessarily, but not saying he needs to be like closing games on the weekend, but surprised that we didn't see him throw last week in the midweek. And you kind of thought, okay, he's an arm they could use. When the game was in extra innings the other day, his name kind of entered my brain where I'm like, I guess McIntyre could be the next guy up if Cole Gibler's not able to get it done. Maybe they'll end up going to him. Of course, Cole Gibler gives up the home run, didn't really give them time to make that move. But a guy that I wouldn't say he's been lost in the shuffle, but it's just good to see him back out there. Another guy, you just want to keep him fresh because at some point you might need him. And I think with Will McIntyre, probably a quicker path to Arkansas needing him on the weekends, just given, how crazy SEC series can get. You're about to face some really good offenses. You're going to need to lean on some veterans. So his time is almost certainly going to come on the weekend at some time, whether it's in May against Tennessee, whether it's in Hoover, whether it's in the NCAA tournament. You just never know. There's a lot of innings left. You kind of have to have all these arms available. I thought Will McIntyre looked awesome tonight. Came in, struck out the side in his first inning, gets a swing and miss on a strikeout, or on a fastball elevated, ends up getting that cutter working, got a lot of swings and misses with that in his first inning of work, then comes back out, gets a couple ground outs, fly out, 29 pitches, 20 strikes, really efficient. It was like he basically was just out there throwing a bullpen. There could have been anybody there. He was just going to do his stuff, execute his pitches. Good to see him look as sharp as he had, considering he hadn't been throwing. And then Steele Leaves, who continues to just get experience here and there in these midweek settings and, low leverage, not necessarily like the biggest moments of the year, but I believe that's now 4 or 5 innings around there that Steele Leaves has gotten. Might not seem like the end of the world, might not seem like anything you're going to really remember. I will guarantee, because it happened with Tate McGuire, I guarantee Steele Leaves, when he starts pitching next year, people are going to be like, where'd this guy come from? Well, he's been throwing in some of these games. And so good to see him get that experience. Again, it might not seem like a big deal, but next year, if he ends up kind of taking that step forward, ends up getting out there and throwing, he'll be a little bit more comfortable because he's been out there and done it, even though it's in a low pressure situation. I think you've also seen Steele Leaves get a little bit better. I think he gave up a run or two in his first couple starts. Has been really good in his last two. I think he's retired the side in order, faced the minimum. I mean, really good stuff from your freshman from Lone Oak. Good to see that. I hope I have that right. I'm pretty sure he's the Lone Oak boy. But Steel Eves, man, like he's, kind of, I didn't necessarily expect it, but he's kind of outside of course, Wiggins and Gibbler, the two like headline, big time blue chip freshmen. Arkansas's got a couple other good freshman arms that we haven't seen this year. I'm thinking of Tag Andrews. I'm thinking about Ross Felder. I'm surprised maybe that Steel Eves has kind of risen above some of those guys and ended up getting some work, but good to see him getting some experience, and he's made the most of it, man. He's gotten better each time he's been out there. Who knows? And like I said, you never really know with all these arms who you're going to end up needing. So we may look up one day and all of a sudden it's Steel Eves coming in to throw the seventh inning in some random SEC game. Wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world as Arkansas works some of these arms back from injury. And so big picture, no like massive takeaways from tonight. This wasn't like a game-changing reassessment of where Arkansas is, but they take care of business. I believe this is now like tied for the best 38 game start since 1989 when Arkansas went to the World Series under Norm DeBryan. 33-5. That's a really clean, really solid record. Love to see it. And Arkansas will be back at home on Thursday night to start a very important series against Texas A&M. We will, of course, have the coverage as we always do here on the Baumbastic Podcast. So leave us a like. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, wherever. And we'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow with a little bit of a weekend preview. Excited to get back to it. Excited to watch Arkansas play A&M. Got a really fun, interesting test this weekend. Looking forward to talking with you guys about that more tomorrow. So we will see you back here on the Baumbastic Podcast. It's been another brilliant edition. Have a great Tuesday night / Wednesday morning, everyone.